All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into healthcare communication.
Really focusing on how to nail those critical conversations, right?
You got it. We're using this insider's guide to the OET speaking section.
The English proficiency test, specifically for healthcare pros.
That's the one.
But it's more than just about proving your English skills,
Right, it's about communication mastery in healthcare.
where the stakes are pretty high, to say the least.
Absolutely. Okay, picture this. You get a role play card, 3 minutes to prep, and bam!
You're thrown into a scenario. Could be anything.
Breaking bad news to a patient.
Or maybe handling a frustrated family member
Oh, or even calmly talking someone through a complicated procedure.
while the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
And it's not just about fluency.
Oh, so what else are they looking for?
Clarity, empathy, how you adapt to the situation, the whole package.
Intense. But our guide's got tips. Like, it stresses how important a strong opening is.
You got to make that initial connection, even with limited prep time.
So what's the secret?
It's a balance, right? Be professional, introduce yourself clearly, but with warmth.
Like a firm but friendly handshake, I guess.
Exactly. And forget about robotic monotone.
Not exactly screaming empathy, is it?
Nope. You got to encourage the patient to share their concerns.
So not just a monologue.
Right. Use open-ended questions. What brings you in today? Or how can I help you?
Invite them into the conversation. Makes sense. Now, what about explaining those complex medical things?
Ah, the jargon trap.
Where you leave the patient more confused than when they came in.
Exactly. Remember, you're talking to a person, not writing a journal article.
Right.
The guide gives a great example. Instead of myocardial infarction, say heart attack.
Simple change, huge difference.
Big time.
It's amazing how much using everyday language helps.
But it's not always enough. Some things are just complicated.
True.
So use visual language,
Visual language.
analogies and comparisons to make the abstract concrete.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Imagine explaining a procedure. Compare it to, say, plumbing or a car engine.
So they can visualize what's going on. So clever.
It helps.
There's so much thought that goes into this.
Absolutely.
It's strategic thinking, quick adaptation, and of course, empathy.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And speaking of empathy,
Yeah.
it's even more important when the patient is anxious or upset,
Like if they just got bad news.
or they don't like the treatment plan. That's tough.
You're not just giving information then, you're dealing with emotions.
Exactly. Acknowledge those emotions head on.
Like what would you say?
I understand you're feeling scared, or it's okay to be angry.
You validate their experience.
Right. Open communication.
Meet them where they are, not just hit them with facts.
Absolutely. Now, honesty is key, but balance it with hope. Even with tough news, you can say, this is challenging, but we'll explore every option.
Acknowledge the difficulty, but keep the possibility of a positive outcome.
Exactly. Even just offering alternatives can help.
Alternative.
If a patient's uncomfortable with a treatment,
Yeah.
say, we have other options.
Shows you're listening to their concerns, you're working with them.
You got it. That feeling of agency can be powerful for a patient.
It's not just doctor dictates anymore.
Exactly. The patient gets to participate.
I like that.
And honestly, that's at the heart of effective communication.
It really is. Okay, we've talked about open-ended questions, but the guide also mentions closed questions.
Right. Different tools for different jobs.
So what's the difference?
Open-ended questions gather information.
Broad questions.
Right, like, tell me about your symptoms. Let the
Oh,
patient share.
I see.
Closed questions confirm details.
Like, do you have any allergies?
Exactly. Yes or no answers.
So open-ended to explore, closed to pinpoint. Makes sense.
You got it. It's about adapting your communication style.
Each patient's different.
Exactly. And that's where the art of communication comes in.
This is fascinating. Okay, so we've gathered info, explained things clearly, addressed concerns. What about giving advice?
Clary's king there.
No rambling monologues,
Yeah.
right?
Nope. Instructions often come when someone's stressed.
Makes sense.
Break things down into steps. Use clear, concise language.
So the patient feels empowered, not overwhelmed.
You got it. Phrases like, it's crucial to, or make sure you, can help highlight things.
And encourage questions. Always good to clarify things.
Absolutely. Now, even with the best skills,
Yeah.
you'll have those difficult conversations. Bad news, challenging patients.
Tough stuff.
Professionalism and compassion are key there.
Always.
Honesty, directness, but with sensitivity.
finding that balance between honesty and empathy.
Exactly. You could say, this is difficult news, but I'm here to support you every step of the way.
That offer of support can be huge in a moment like that.
Absolutely. It's about being present, not just clinically, but humanly.
Wow, we've covered so much already.
We have
Opening the conversation, explaining medical info, responding to concerns, asking questions, giving advice, and even those tough talks. And there's still more.
so much more. Like wrapping things up gracefully. Make sure the patient feels heard and understood.
Well, good thing this is a multi-part deep dive.
That's right.
We'll be back to explore those final steps and tie it all together. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. We're really getting into how to master those key conversations in healthcare.
Using the OET speaking section as our guide, right?
Exactly. It's like we're cracking the code of effective communication.
And last time we were talking about how to wrap up these conversations so the patient really benefits.
You always do save the best for last, don't you?
Maybe. But seriously, how do we make sure they feel heard and confident about what's next?
It's about providing closure. You've covered so much. Tie up those loose ends, make them feel heard.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the first step?
Start with a nice, concise summary of what you talked about.
Reinforce those key points.
Exactly. Make sure everyone's on the same page.
Hit that save button on the important stuff. Got it. What's next?
Offer more help. Let the patient know you're there if they have questions later.
Keep that line of communication open. Don't hesitate to reach out, that kind of thing.
Right. It makes a difference.
Shows them they're not alone. Builds trust.
Exactly. Like we talked about earlier, that sense of partnership.
And of course, we end politely and professionally.
Always. Take care. Wishing you all the best. Little things like that.
They can go a long way, can't they?
It's not just a transaction, you know? It's a real exchange.
So true. Now, you said the OET looks for more than just fluency.
Right.
They also look at active listening skills.
Oh, absolutely.
What does that actually mean?
It's not just hearing words. It's being present in the moment. Picking up on those cues, verbal and nonverbal.
Like making eye contact, nodding along, actually responding to what they're saying.
Exactly. Not interrupting.
Yeah.
Making them feel heard and understood.
Like you're saying, I see you. I hear you. This matters.
That's it. And when someone's feeling vulnerable, that can be huge.
It must help build trust too, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Active listening is the foundation of communication everywhere.
Speaking of, the OET has that time limit, doesn't it?
3 minutes to prep.
Only 3 minutes. How do you manage that?
Use it wisely. Read that scenario carefully. What are the key points? Have a plan.
Don't just jump in.
Right. And once you start, be aware of the time for each part. Hit all the points, but don't rush.
It's like a communication obstacle course.
I like that. And if you're running out of time, prioritize.
The most important stuff first. Address their concerns, give clear instructions, offer support.
Exactly. Be strategic. Make every second count.
The OET sounds pretty tough.
It is. But, you know, it makes you think about all those little things in communication.
The things we take for granted.
It really does. It's like a master class in communication for high-pressure situations.
But even if you're not taking the OET,
Right.
these skills are valuable for anyone in healthcare.
Oh, absolutely. Or anyone who talks to other humans, really.
So true. This is all great advice for anyone. Is there anything else from the guide we should cover?
You know, there's one thing that keeps coming up. The guide really stresses staying in your role.
Staying in your role. What does that mean?
Remember, in the OEP assessment, you're acting like a healthcare professional.
Right.
So act like one. No going off topic.
No personal stories, no random medical advice.
Exactly. Stay professional. Show that you understand what's expected of you.
Makes sense. It's about communicating effectively within that healthcare context.
And in real life, too, right? Patients need to see you as knowledgeable and trustworthy. Focused on them.
Building that trust.
That's it.
Yeah.
In communication, that's how you get there.
Well said. We've talked about opening the conversation, wrapping it up, active listening, even managing time.
We have.
I feel like I'm getting the hang of this healthcare communication thing.
You should. And remember, it's a skill. You get better with practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
It becomes second nature.
That's it. So what are our listeners thinking?
Yeah, what's resonating with you? What are you going to try differently?
Good questions. And as we head into the final part of our deep dive,
Yes.
we'll look at how these skills impact patient care. And we've got some extra insights you might not expect.
Ooh, can't wait. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been digging into the OET guide, and honestly, it's really changed how I think about communication.
Yeah, it's amazing how much there is to learn, even if you think you're already good at it.
I know, right? One thing that stood out to me is the emphasis on empathy.
It's not just a nice to have.
It's presented as a crucial skill, just as important as speaking clearly or listening well.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah,
Healthcare isn't just about giving facts and instructions.
right. You're dealing with real people.
Who might be scared, unsure, worried.
You have to meet them where they are emotionally, make them feel safe and heard.
Exactly. And the guide gives you practical ways to do that, to show empathy throughout the conversation.
From the very beginning to the very end.
Right. Do you remember that example from the guide? The patient who just got a tough diagnosis? Oh, yeah, the one where they have to explain a complicated treatment plan.
That's the one. It could easily go wrong, couldn't it?
So much potential for misunderstanding.
But the healthcare professional starts by acknowledging the patient's feelings.
How do they do that?
They say something like, I know this is a lot to take in, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. We'll go slowly.
Simple, but powerful.
You're not dismissing their feeling.
You're validating them.
Exactly. It shows you care about the person, not just their illness.
And that can make all the difference in building trust
It helps the patient feel more comfortable asking questions, too.
and engaging with the treatment plan.
Exactly. Those little changes in communication can have such a huge impact.
It reminds us that healthcare is about people, not just diseases.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Now, before we finish up,
Yeah.
I want to throw out a little challenge to our listeners.
A challenge. I like it.
We focus on healthcare, but these skills are valuable everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Active listening, empathy, clear communication
They make any relationship better.
with family, friends, even strangers.
What if we were all more mindful of how we communicate?
Truly listen to each other, made an effort to understand
It could make a huge difference.
in our personal lives and our professional lives.
It all comes back around, doesn't it?
On that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
I agree.
Thank you all for joining us on this journey into healthcare communication.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, communication is a skill you can always improve.
Never stop learning.
Keep practicing and keep connecting with others.
And with that, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.